because throughout my years of service to the church, particularly to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops as interim chair of the body investigating the abuse of minors by the clergy, truthfulness was always the one virtue that was the hardest to wring out of the institution during our investigation. Truthfulness itself was the victim everywhere we turned. Let me be very clear. Truthfulness would have stopped the tragedy of sexual abuse by the clergy. Truthfulness would have prevented the erosion of faith for many in its aftermath. Truthfulness would have stabilized victims when they reported the abuse. And truthfulness would have brought a fuller healing and dignity to those most hurting after going unheard or vilified for years. And truthfulness would have stopped the crisis brought on by the financial settlements that already have bankrupted some dioceses in our nation. Truthfulness, I believe, would have made the task before our National Review Board less painful in our personal lives. Truthfulness would have made some of the leaders we spoke to more believable, less threatened, and maybe less culpable. Truthfulness would have prevented some bishops from trying to deceive even those of us on the National Review Board in our efforts on their behalf. Truthfulness would have helped to achieve transparency for real. Truthfulness would have separated scandal from crime, for the terrible scandal was most of all the result of the untruth, the lies, the deceit, and the cover-up. Tonight, I am not so much interested in your knowing what our board did each step of our investigation as I am in relating to how I now believe that while we thought we were searching for the correct numbers of abusers and abused, there was something even more profound to uncover. As we sought the essential reasons for how this, the greatest of all scandals in the history of American Catholicism, came about, today I would have to say that what was most important was the discovery that truthfulness itself had been the first victim to fall. Without truthfulness, leadership did what it willed, dragging the church into the murky world of half-truths and cover-up. Make no mistake, as truthfulness disappeared, each of the other great virtues became victims and faded away as well. Charity suffered, kindness was ignored, courage was discouraged, and holiness disappeared. Character was traded for secrecy. Honor was bartered for disguise, and moral excellence was silenced before it could utter a word. I believe this raises serious questions for us all, especially Catholics in the public square. How do we face the future in light of these discoveries? How do people of faith go on? How do those who have been victimized rise beyond the personal horrors of the past? And to where do people of hope look to for the ability to survive? Such answers really do exist. We look to the truth, and we remember the words the Lord spoke to reinforce the journey we make in the direction together. Jesus said, "I am the truth, as well as the light and the way." He needed no reminders of what the human heart was capable. He experienced its betrayal. He was touched by its denial. He was familiar with its abandonment of him, especially in his darkest hour. But he still remains truth for us. He identifies himself with the most essential element of discipleship. Without truth, there can be no discipleship. And this brings me to what is perhaps the most important rediscovery of the churning waters unleashed by the Second Vatican Council. The deepening understanding of what it means to be a disciple. Every component of the life of the church, the scriptures, the sacraments, the liturgy, religious life, the way the church engages the modern world, and the way we see our mission in the world must continue to be transformed in the spirit of the Council. It all unfolds to expand the dynamic of discipleship, that mystical relationship between Christ and his people. Discipleship challenges and shapes the heart of the one who walks with Christ, radically changing the manner in which they engage the world around them. The disciple is equipped for the journey, nourished by the risen Lord and armored with truth. This is how all disciples walk into the public square, equipped with truth, nourished by word and sacrament. It is the only way I know. My entire professional life has been spent in the service to the law. Truth is an essential part of what I have done, and it is certainly true in my role on the Illinois Supreme Court. My colleagues and I sift through the facts, and we look for truth. As Daniel Patrick Moynihan used to say, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. I know that in recent years, Catholics in the public square, especially those who have been elected to positions of political power or judicial responsibility, have been the targets of extremist perspectives from certain members of the hierarchy and the radical right. Issues of very complicated moral probity have become the lightning rod by which Catholics in public office have been set upon by those who believe that the Catholic teachings should be enforced on all Americans, disregarding the treasured principle of the separation of church and state that underpins our republic. Catholics in public office who do not challenge laws contradictory to the Catholic teaching, guaranteed by the United States Constitution, have been threatened with nothing short of excommunication by some bishops. The more public the Catholic, the more ferocious the punishment. Often denial of the Eucharist is used as the stick with which some bishops around the country have threatened legislators and public officials. And I am very glad I do not live in Scranton, Pennsylvania.